It was a sharp, dry snap, like a dead branch breaking in the woods, only it was right behind my head. It was the last thing I expected to hear, because everything was supposed to be solid. I'd checked the metal hooks in the rock 3 times. I'm careful. I've always been careful. But that sound, it didn't belong on a granite face in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon. It was too small for how much trouble I was in. I remember my stomach hitting my throat. That's the only way I can say it. The ground, which was 50 feet down and mostly just gray, jagged edges, suddenly looked like it was rushing up to meet me. I didn't scream. I didn't have time to. I just thought about my kids. I thought about the fact that I hadn't finished the laundry before I left the house. Such a stupid thing to think about when you're about to die, right? The laundry. Then there was the wind. It hissed past my ears. I reached out for anything, a crack, a weed, a bump in the stone, but my fingers just grazed the surface. It was smooth, cold, and then the sound of the impact. It wasn't a thud, it was a crunch. I felt my ribs give way. I felt my left leg just stop being a leg, and then the world went black. Not a quiet black, but a heavy, thick kind of dark that felt like it was pressing the air out of my lungs. I'm Zeke. I've been reading stories for this channel, near-death experiences, for a long time now. Usually people send me accounts from years ago, things they've had a decade to process, but this one from Denzel is different. This happened 5 days ago. He's actually talking to me from a hospital bed in Seattle right now, and I can hear the machines in the background of his recording. What really got me, what made me want to stop him and say, "Wait, tell me that again," is how he describes the fall. Most people talk about a blur. Denzel remembers the sound of the gear breaking like it was a gunshot. He's looking at this with a kind of focus that I don't see often. I keep wondering if being so close to the event makes the details sharper, or if he's just the kind of guy who notices the small stuff even when the world is ending. I don't know how long I was in that dark, but then I wasn't on the ground anymore. I mean, I was, but I wasn't. I could see myself. I was lying on that ledge, the one I hit on the way down. My body looked like a pile of discarded clothes. My left leg was bent at an angle that made me want to look away, but I couldn't. I wasn't in pain. That was the first thing I noticed. The agony of the ribs snapping, it was just gone. I felt light. I felt like I was floating in a pool of warm water, just drifting. I looked up, away from the ledge and the broken version of me, and the sky wasn't blue anymore. It wasn't even the sky. The rock face, the trees, the valley below, it all just kind of melted away. It didn't disappear. It just stopped being solid, and then I was in the light. It wasn't like a lamp or the sun. It was like the light was alive. It had a weight to it, a warmth that felt like a hand on my shoulder. It knew me. I can't explain how I knew that, but I did. Every mistake I've ever made, every time I yelled at the kids for no reason, every time I lied to my wife about something small, it was all there, and yet it didn't matter. The light didn't care about the mistakes. It just cared that I was there. And then he was there, Jesus. He wasn't standing on a cloud or anything. He was just there, in the middle of this living light. He didn't look like the pictures on the Sunday school walls. His hair wasn't perfectly combed. He looked real, strong. His eyes were the thing I'll never forget. They weren't just blue or brown. They were like looking into deep water where you can see all the way to the bottom. He looked at me, and I felt like he was reading the parts of my life I'd forgotten myself. "Denzel," he said. His voice didn't come through my ears. It just echoed inside my chest. It felt like a vibration. "You aren't supposed to stay yet, but you need to see what's coming." I tried to speak. I wanted to ask about my wife, Sarah. I wanted to ask if I was dead, but my voice didn't work. I just felt this pull like I was being led by the hand. We weren't in the light anymore. We were looking at a room. It was a small room, kind of dark, with a single window. There was a woman there. She was sitting on the edge of a bed, holding a book. She looked tired. Her clothes were old, faded. Jesus pointed to her. "Look at her heart, Denzel. Do you see the difference?" At first, I didn't see anything. She just looked like a lady in a messy room. But then it was like my vision shifted. I could see a glow inside her. It wasn't coming from a lamp. It was coming from her chest. It was steady, bright. It made the whole room feel different. "She has nothing," Jesus said. I could hear the sadness in him, but also a kind of pride. In the world's eyes, she is a failure. She has no money in the bank, her car is broken in the driveway, but her heart has been changed. She doesn't chase what the world chases anymore. She is one of mine. I watched her for a minute. She wasn't doing anything special. She was just sitting there. But she looked settled, like she wasn't waiting for something better to happen. She was already okay. Jesus looked at me then, and the light around us seemed to get more intense. This is the first mark, Denzel. The heart that has been turned inside out. People think they can follow me with their mouths, but their hearts are still stuck in the dirt. In 2026, which is where you are now, the dirt is going to get very slippery. The people who love the dirt will fall. Only the ones with the changed heart will stand. I felt a chill then. 2026. That's this year. I mean, I know what year it is, but hearing him say it made it feel heavy, like a deadline. I wanted to ask him what he meant by the dirt being slippery. I wanted to know if he was talking about the economy or the wars on the news, but he just took my hand, and the room with the woman vanished. We were moving again. I felt like we were rushing through a tunnel made of static and whispers. I could see faces, thousands of them. Some were screaming, some were laughing, some were just blank. They were all carrying things, purses, phones, bags of groceries, titles to houses. They were gripping them so hard their knuckles were white. They think these things are the markers, Jesus said. He didn't sound angry. He sounded like a father watching his kid run toward a cliff. They think the house and the car and the respect of their neighbors are the signs that they are chosen. But look, he gestured to a man in a suit. He was standing in a big office, talking on a phone. He looked successful. He looked like the kind of guy I used to want to be. But when I looked at his chest, there was no glow. It was just gray, like wood that had been sitting in the rain too long. It looked cold. He says my name every Sunday, Jesus told me. He gives money to the church. He tells everyone he's a believer, but his heart is still his own. He hasn't let me touch it. He's just wearing a costume. I thought about my own heart then. I thought about my job and the way I worry about my retirement account. I felt a sudden, sharp pang of fear. Was I wearing a costume too? I looked down at my own chest, but I couldn't see anything. I was just a blur of light. You are here because you asked to know the truth, Jesus said, answering the thought I hadn't even finished. And the truth is, most people are more afraid of losing their comfort than they are of losing their soul. But 2026 is the year where the comfort starts to thin out. It's the year where the costume won't be enough to keep you warm. He stopped then. We were standing in a place that felt like the edge of the world. It was quiet. The living light was still there, pulsing like a heartbeat. I could feel the gravity of the earth pulling at me, trying to bring me back to that ledge, back to the broken ribs and the leg that didn't work. But I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay in the warmth. There are 6 more marks, Denzel, Jesus said. He looked toward the horizon where I could see shadows shifting, like clouds gathering for a storm. You need to see them all, because when you go back, you won't have much time to tell them. The year is already moving. I felt the urgency in his voice. It wasn't a panic, but it was a command. He wasn't suggesting I pay attention. He was telling me that my life, the one I was about to go back to, depended on me remembering these details. The woman in the dark room, the man in the suit, the glow in the chest. Show me, I thought. I didn't say it. I didn't have to. Jesus turned, and the light behind him began to change color. It went from a warm gold to a deep, intense blue. It felt like the air was getting thicker, like the pressure you feel when you're diving deep underwater. The second mark, he said, and his eyes grew very serious. It's about the words, not the ones people say to me, but the ones they are willing to die for. I tried to brace myself. I didn't know how to brace myself when I didn't have a body, but I felt my mind tighten. I thought about the snap of the gear again, the way I knew in that split second that the metal had failed. I felt like I was standing on a different kind of ledge now, a spiritual one. And the drop looked a lot further than 50 feet. I looked at Jesus, and I saw that he was already looking at the next scene. He was waiting for me to catch up. He was waiting for me to see the world as it really was, not the way I'd been seeing it from my house in Seattle. The living light surged, and for a second I felt like I was being torn apart and put back together all at once. The truth is a person, Denzel, he whispered. It's not a book. It's not a set of rules. And in 2026, the people who love the person will be very easy to find because they will be the only ones still standing when the lies start to roar. I followed his gaze, and the blue light opened up into a street. A busy street, full of people. But something was wrong. The air looked yellow, greasy. People were shouting at each other, but I couldn't hear the words. I could only see their faces. They looked terrified. And then I saw the mark. The air on that street, it's thick. It looks like the exhaust from a bus, that heavy, oily, yellow color that sticks to the back of your throat. I can almost smell it, even though I don't have a nose right now. It smells like old grease and something sour. The people walking through it are rubbing their eyes, trying to see where they're going, but they keep bumping into each other. They're yelling, but the sound is muffled, like they're underwater. Jesus is standing right next to me. He isn't affected by the yellow fog. He looks at the people with this look that makes me want to cry. It's not pity. It's deeper than that. It's like he's watching them go blind on purpose. "The second mark, Denzel," he says. His voice is the only thing that's clear in all that mess. An unwavering love for the truth. Look at what they're doing to stay safe. I look closer at a group of people standing on a corner. They're holding these signs, but the words on the signs keep changing. 1 second, the sign says one thing, and the next, the letters scramble and turn into something else. The people holding them don't seem to notice. They just keep nodding and smiling these fake, tight smiles, looking around to see if anyone is watching them. They are changing their words to fit the air, Jesus says. The air in 2026 is full of lies. It's a pressure that tells you that if you just say the wrong thing is right, you can keep your job, you can keep your friends, you can stay in the yellow fog where it's warm and nobody bothers you. I see a woman in the crowd. She's different. She isn't holding a sign. She's just standing there, and she looks like she's struggling to breathe. The yellow air is trying to force its way into her mouth, but she keeps it shut. She looks scared. I mean, her hands are shaking, but she won't nod. She won't join the group. She loves the truth more than her comfort, Jesus tells me. That's the mark. It isn't about being loud or angry. It's about not letting the yellow air become part of you. In 2026, the truth is going to be the most expensive thing you can own. Most people will trade it for a little bit of peace. I feel this weight in my chest. I think about my office back in Seattle. I think about the meetings where people say things they don't mean just to get through the hour. I realize I've breathed that yellow air before. I've nodded when I should have stayed still. Lord, I think, and I feel like I'm falling again, like the ledge is back. How do you stay standing when the air is that thick? Jesus doesn't answer with a lecture. He just moves his hand and the greasy street is gone. I have to stop here for a second. The way Denzel described that yellow air and the date to 26, that's the second time this week I've seen that. I was checking the channel's inbox yesterday, and there was an email from a guy in Chicago who had a heart attack last month. He didn't see Jesus. He saw what he called a guide, but he mentioned the exact same year. 2026, he said it felt like a tightening. And now Denzel is saying the same thing. I'm leaning into this because it feels less like a coincidence and more like a pattern I'm not smart enough to see yet. I'm honestly curious, has anyone else here had an experience where a specific year was given? Not the future or soon, but a hard number? I'd love to hear from someone who was told something years ago that was supposed to happen now. It might help me figure out if Denzel is seeing a literal calendar or if 2026 is a name for a certain kind of trouble. Anyway, Denzel is still in that vision, and it's about to get a lot more personal for him. The scene changes fast. It's not a street anymore. It's a house. A nice house, maybe like the ones in my neighborhood. But it's empty. The furniture is gone. There's a man sitting on a suitcase in the middle of the living room. He's got his head in his hands. I recognize him. It's the man from the suit, the one in the big office with the gray heart. Only he's not in a suit now. And he's wearing an old sweatshirt, and he looks like he hasn't slept in a week. The third mark, Jesus says. We're standing in the corner of the empty room. Perseverance through trial. I watch the man. He looks up at the bare walls, and his face is it's broken. I can feel his thoughts. He's thinking about his bank account. He's thinking about the people who used to call him for advice who won't pick up the phone now. He feels like he's been dropped from a great height, and the ground didn't just break his bones, it broke his life. He called me Lord when the sun was out, Jesus says quietly. But now the storm has taken the roof. Many follow me for the prizes I give, Denzel. They want the safety, they want the wealth, they want the easy path, but my chosen ones stay when the prizes are gone. He reminds me of Job. I remember that story from church, but seeing it like this, it's different. It's not a story about a guy in the desert. It's about a guy losing his mortgage in 2026. It's about a guy whose body is failing him. Trials are the fire, Jesus says. They burn away the costume. If you only follow me because your life is good, then you aren't following me at all. You're just following your own luck. My chosen ones bear the mark of the scar. They've been hit, they've been hurt, and they've been left with nothing, but they are still looking at me. I look at the man on the suitcase. Something starts to change. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small, worn-out book. He starts to read, and his lips are moving, but he's not crying anymore. He's breathing slow, and then I see it. That glow. It starts as a tiny spark in the middle of his gray chest. It's small like a match in a dark cave, but it's there. He is beginning to see, Jesus whispers. He had to lose the office to find the heart. In 2026, many will lose their gear. They will find that the hooks they trusted in the rock were never solid, and in that moment they will either curse the rock or they will finally learn how to climb. I feel a sting in my leg, my real leg, the one back on the ledge. It's like a reminder. I'm one of those people. I'm lying there with my ribs crushed, and I'm realizing that my careful life was just a different kind of costume. I thought I was safe because I had a good job and a sturdy rope. The room starts to stretch. The walls of the house pull back like they're made of rubber. We're in a different place now. It's a party, or at least it looks like one. There's loud music, and people are drinking and laughing, and the lights are bright and flashing. It feels frantic. It's too much. The air here doesn't look yellow, but it feels heavy in a different way. It feels like everyone is trying very hard to be happy. The fourth mark, Jesus says. He's looking at a young man standing near the edge of the crowd. A desire for holiness. The young man is holding a drink, but he's not drinking it. He's looking at the door. His friends are around him, and they're pulling at his sleeve, trying to get him to join in. They're saying things that make everyone else laugh, things that feel sharp and mean. But the young man looks uncomfortable. He looks like he's wearing shoes that are 3 sizes too small. They tell him he's being boring, Jesus says. They tell him he's stuck in the past. They tell him to just enjoy himself, to chase the pleasure of the moment. But he can't. He has a hunger they don't understand. I see the young man put the drink down on a table. He says something to his friends. I can't hear it. And he walks out. He walks into the dark, away from the music and the lights. He's alone, but as he walks, I see his chest. The glow there is deep. It's steady. Holiness isn't a list of rules, Denzel, Jesus tells me. It's a pull. It's the feeling of being made for a different world. My chosen ones don't fit in here. They feel the gap between what the world wants and what I want, and that gap is getting wider every day. By 2026, it will be a canyon. I watch the young man walk down the quiet street. He looks relieved. People think being set apart means being better than everyone else, Jesus says, and I can hear the correction in his voice. It doesn't. It means being mine. It means realizing that the party is full of shadows and the dark street is where the real light is. Most will stay at the party because they're afraid of the quiet. My chosen love the quiet because that's where I am. The music from the party starts to distort. It turns into a low, droning hum like a beehive. The lights start to blur into a single blinding white line. I feel the living light coming back, wrapping around me, pulling me away from the street and the young man. You're seeing the separation, Jesus says. His voice is louder now, like he's trying to make sure I hear him over the noise of the world. The wheat and the weeds, they've been growing together for a long time, Denzel. But 2026 is the harvest of the heart. The lines are being drawn. You can't stand in the middle anymore. I want to tell him I understand. I want to tell him I'll choose the quiet. but the pressure is building. My mind feels like it's being squeezed. I think about my kids again. My son, Leo. He's only 10. What kind of world is he going to have in 2026? What kind of air is he going to breathe? There's power for those who stay, Jesus says, as if he heard the fear for my son. But it's not the power the world understands. It's the fifth mark, and you need to see how it works when everything else falls apart. The white light explodes. For a second, I'm back on the ledge. I feel the cold stone against my face. I hear the wind. I feel the blood in my mouth. It's so real, I want to scream. But then it's gone, and I'm standing in a garden. It's early morning. There's dew on the grass. It's perfectly still, and there's someone kneeling under a tree. The garden is so quiet, it makes my head ring. It's that kind of silence you get right before a storm hits, where even the bugs stop making noise. The woman under the tree isn't saying anything. She's just kneeling there with her eyes closed. She looks like she's listening to something far away. The fifth mark, Jesus says. He walks over and stands near her, but she doesn't see him. A life of powerful prayer. I look at her and, it doesn't look powerful. She just looks like a lady in a garden. And I've seen people at church who pray loud, who wave their hands and shout. This isn't that. This is something else. Many treat prayer like a vending machine, Jesus tells me. They put in their words and they expect a prize. They want the money, the health, the easy road. But look at her. I look at the glow in her chest. It's pulsing, almost like it's breathing with her. Every time she exhales, the light gets a little bit brighter. She isn't asking for things, Jesus says. She is asking for me. She knows that in 2026, the only thing that won't break is my hand. Prayer isn't a religious chore. It's a lifeline. It's how my chosen ones keep their hearts from turning back into stone when the world gets cold. It makes me think about the snap of the rope again. When I was falling, I didn't have time to pray a long prayer. Just had that 1 second where my heart went toward God. It was like a tug on a line. That was prayer, Denzel, Jesus says, like he's reading the memory right out of my head. The quick cry is just as real as the long silence. But in 2026, you're going to need the silence too. You're going to need to know my voice well enough to hear it when the lies are screaming. He moves his hand and the garden it doesn't fade, it just gets covered up, like someone putting a new slide in a projector. Suddenly, we're in a city. It's a mess. There are cars flipped over and smoke is rising from a building down the street. It looks like a riot or a war zone. I can see people running, their faces twisted up in anger, they're throwing things, they're screaming, it's loud and it's ugly. The sixth mark, Jesus says. He points to a man standing in the middle of the chaos. He's helping an older woman who tripped on the sidewalk. He's being careful with her, even while people are pushing past him. He looks calm. Not like he doesn't care, but like he's got an anchor somewhere deep down. It's the fruit of the Spirit, Jesus says. You can't fake this when the world is on fire. Love, joy, peace, patience. These aren't just words on a poster. They are the evidence that I am living inside a person. In 2026, when everyone else is full of hate and fear, my chosen will be the ones who are still kind. They will be the ones who don't panic. I watch the man. Someone yells something at him, something mean, and he just nods and keeps helping the lady. He doesn't yell back. He doesn't look for a rock to throw. By their fruit, you will recognize them, Jesus tells me. Not by their Bibles, not by their church attendance, by how they handle the fire. Many who say they follow me will be the first ones to throw a stone when things get hard, but not the chosen. They carry my character. The smoke from the city starts to swirl, and Jesus steps closer to me. The living light is so bright now that I can't see the riot anymore. It's just him and me. He looks at me and I feel this sudden sharp pressure on my forehead. It doesn't hurt, but it's heavy. The seventh mark, Denzel, the seal of God. Wait, I have to ask about that. The seal. Denzel says he felt it as a pressure on his forehead. I've read a few other accounts where people described it like a heat or a weight or even a literal mark they could see on other people. I'm genuinely curious. If you've been through something like this, did you feel a marking? I don't mean a tattoo or anything. I mean a sensation that told you that you belonged to something else. I saw a comment a few weeks ago from a nurse who said she could sometimes see a faint light around certain patients right before they passed away, and it makes me wonder if that's the same thing Denzel is talking about. Is the seal for us so we know we're safe, or is it for the world to see? I'd really like to know what that felt like for you. It's the one detail in these stories that always feels the most physical to me. It's like a weight, a solid, heavy weight right between my eyes. It makes me feel, I don't know, anchored, like I'm tied to a mountain and nothing can pull me off. Jesus looks at me and his face is so grave it scares me a little. This seal is what separates the wheat from the weeds, Denzel. It's the invisible mark that the enemy cannot touch. In 2026, the separation is going to become a split. The middle ground is disappearing. You are either mine or you belong to the world. There is no more pretending. I look around and I see people everywhere. They're all moving through their lives. Some have that seal, that invisible weight, and they walk with this kind of quiet confidence. Others don't. They look like they're being blown around by the wind. They look thin, fragile. 2026 is a turning point, Jesus says. It's not the end, but it's a shift. The systems people trust in, their money, their governments, their own strength, they are going to shake. And when they shake, only the ones with the seal will stay standing. Only the ones who have let me change their hearts, who love the truth, that who have endured the fire, who seek holiness, who pray from the gut, and who bear my fruit. He puts his hand on my chest, right where the ribs are broken. I can feel the warmth of it even through the blur of my soul. Denzel, he says, time is short. The year is moving. People think they have a long time to figure this out, but they don't. The harvest is happening now. The lines are being drawn in the dirt right under their feet. I feel this sudden, terrifying pull. It's like the gravity of the earth has finally found me. I look down and I can see the ledge again. I see my body. It looks so small and broken down there. I see the rescue team. They're scrambling over the rocks and I can hear the radio chatter. It's all so loud and gray compared to the light. I don't want to go, I think. I can feel myself getting heavy. The warmth of the light is fading at the edges. You have to, Jesus says. They need to hear that the marks are real. They need to know that 2026 isn't just another year. It's a choice. I reach out for him, but my hands aren't hands anymore. They're just mist. The last thing I see are his eyes. They aren't sad, but they are urgent. He looks like a man watching a storm roll in, knowing he's the only one who can see it. And then the light snaps. It's like being hit by a truck. The pain, I can't even describe the pain. It's like every nerve in my body is on fire all at once. I can hear myself screaming, but it sounds far away, like it's coming from someone else. I can smell the dirt and the dried blood. I can feel the cold Seattle wind hitting my face. Someone is yelling, "He's back! I've got a pulse! Stay with us, Denzel! Stay with us!" I want to tell them to be quiet. I want to tell them I saw the marks. I want to tell them about the yellow air and the man on the suitcase. But I can't breathe. Every time I try to inhale, it feels like my chest is full of broken glass. I'm falling. Not off a cliff this time, but back into the world. And the world feels so heavy. It feels like lead. The last thing I remember before the paramedics put the mask over my face is that weight on my forehead. The seal. It's still there. Even with the pain, even with the ribs clicking together, I can feel it. I'm not alone. The hospital smells like cold pennies and floor wax. That's the first thing I really knew for sure when I woke up. It's a sharp, clean smell that tries to hide the fact that people are hurting. I could hear the rhythmic clicking of a machine next to my ear. The ventilator, I found out later. It was breathing for me because my lungs were too flat to do it on their own. It's June 2nd today. I've been in this ICU bed for 5 days. They tells me I've had 3 surgeries so far. They had to put metal plates in my leg and my hip. My ribs are taped up so tight I feel like I'm wearing a corset made of lead. Every time I move, even just an inch to the left, it feels like that gear is snapping all over again. The pain is a constant, low hum in the background of everything. My wife, Sarah, has been sitting in the chair by the window. She looks older than she did last week. Her eyes are red, and she keeps holding my hand like she's afraid I'm going to float away if she lets go. I want to tell her I'm not going anywhere. I want to tell her about the garden and the yellow air, but I can't talk for very long before the coughing starts, and coughing feels like being stabbed. The thing I noticed about how Denzel sounds right now, and you can hear it in his voice, is that he isn't talking like someone who has all the answers. He's talking like someone who just got home from a war and is still trying to figure out why his house is still standing. I've read accounts where people come back and they're immediately happy, almost floating. But Denzel is in a lot of physical trouble. He told me earlier that the living light he saw felt more real than the IV drip in his arm. That's a detail I keep coming back to. He's sitting there in a hospital in Seattle, surrounded by the best tech we have in 2026, and he's saying it feels like a costume. It makes me wonder how much of what we call reality is just the yellow fog he was talking about. I've heard a few people say that after an event like this, the world feels thin, but Denzel sounds like he's seeing right through the walls. The doctors come in and they talk about physical therapy. They talk about, months of rehab and whether I'll ever climb again. I just nod. I don't care about the climbing. I don't even care about the leg. All I can think about is the man on the suitcase. I keep seeing him in the middle of my hospital room when the lights go down at night. I see that spark in his chest, that tiny little light that grew when he lost everything. Jesus said 2026 is a choice. And lying here, I realize he wasn't just talking about the world out there. He was talking about me. I have all this insurance and a good house and people who love me, but that's not the hook in the rock. The hook failed. The gear snapped. I'm only alive because he caught me, and he didn't catch me so I could go back to my old life and worry about the laundry. I've been trying to pray, but it's hard with the morphine. My head feels like it's full of cotton. But then I remember the woman in the garden. She wasn't saying anything. She was just listening. So I try to do that. I lie here and listen to the monitors, and I look for that weight on my forehead. It's still there. It's the only thing that doesn't hurt. It feels like a cool thumb pressed against my skin. I don't know what's going to happen when I get out of here. I don't know if the economy is going to shake like he said, or if the air is going to get yellow for everyone. But I know I can't breathe that old air anymore. I can't go back to pretending that the things I own are what keep me safe. I'm 43 years old, and I feel like I'm just starting to learn how to walk, even if I can't actually stand up yet. Sarah asked me yesterday why I keep looking at the clock. I told her I'm not looking at the time. I'm looking at the year, 2026. It's not just a number on a calendar, it's a door. And we're already walking through it. I just hope I can tell enough people before the door closes. My chest hurts. I think I need to rest now. Denzel's story adds one more piece to the collection I've been gathering here. It lines up with a few others in the way he describes that feeling of a turning point. But the detail that doesn't fit, the one I can't quite place, is the yellow air. Most people describe the world getting darker or colder, but he saw something greasy, something that people were breathing in without even knowing it. The thing I'm left sitting with is whether that date, 2026, is a literal deadline for some kind of global shift, or if it's a personal marker. Denzel is living through his 2026 right now in that ICU bed, but he seems so sure it's for everyone. I genuinely don't know. I'd need to hear from more people who have seen specific dates, especially people who don't have a religious background, to see if they're seeing the same yellow fog. If something like what Denzel described has happened to you, or if you've felt that pressure he called the seal, I'd really like to hear about it, especially if your experience happened recently in the last few months. It helps me figure out whether these details are just personal to the narrator, or if they're part of a bigger pattern we're all moving into. Leave a comment or send me your account. It honestly helps me think. I'll be listening for that in the next story.